Thank you very much, Mr. Pittenger. Thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure coming here. My name is Strand. I'm coming from Denmark. I'm a specialist in telecom regulation, cybersecurity, and how to build a sustainable digital society which is basically built on infrastructure from trusted vendors. Today I want to present some of the research we have done over the last years, and I have some brand new research with me today. I think it's very important to understand we're moving into a new world where it's a digital society. Everything is connected today. Everything is online. In the past, someone came and measured how much heat we've been using our house. Now you do it remotely. It's connected. The same with the power consumption. In the past, someone was writing down how much energy we've been using. Today, it's automatically reported back to our energy company, and they can send us an invoice every month. The cars is connected. If you have a serious crash in your car, it's called 911 or 112, depends on where you live in the world, and it tells we have a serious car crash, etc. The stupid city is dead. In the future, smart cities. So we go from this more intelligent. And the question is, how do we build these cities? On top of that, we also have AI coming in. And some months ago, a lot of hassle was around DeepSeek. And I will just tell you, DeepSeek is not as impressive as people want to say it. But for China, it's important to say we can do it just as good as the Americans. And right now, where China is under deep pressure, they do a lot of telling us that they are much better than we are, despite the fact that they're very dependent on our technology. The reality is, if you install DeepSeek on your phone, you say yes to that it get access to your contact details, the pictures on your phones and all those things, and you just want to ask a search engine about something and get an answer. Why should you have access to all this information? They have your digital ID, all those information. And in the conditions for DeepSeek, it says, we take care of your data. We store them on safe servers in mainland China. And I just want to say thank you, but no thank you. I don't want to send my data to mainland China. Electric cars are connected nowadays. They collect a lot of data. They're sending information back to the car manufacturers. In China, there's a law that the information from the electric cars should not only go back to the manufacturer, but also to the government. The Chinese government says this is because we want to improve road safety, and if we get information from all the electric vehicles in China, we can do much better regulation and improve road safety and so on. I call the Chinese car spies on wheels. And that's a tough statement. It's a very tough statement. But in Norway, there's a bunch of people which have created what they call Project Lion Cage. This is super cybersecurity people, some guys which are expert in network technology and all those things. And they've basically been monetizing, finding out which kind of data do Chinese electric vehicles which are driving on the roads in Norway sending during the night, during the day. And trust me, you can find it on LinkedIn. If you search on the Project Lion Cage, you will find information that these cars are sending tons of information back to China. So tell me, why should an electric car in Norway, in the middle of the night, take data they take from the car and send it back to China? In electric vehicles, there's microphones, there's cameras, there's a lot of things. The amount of information they can collect is unbelievable. We're in Spain. Not a long time ago, the power went out in Spain and Portugal. Giant power failure. And to be honest, there have not been any reasonable, serious explanation of what's going on. There's still an investigation. We don't know about someone shut it off, or it was a coincidence that the power went off in the main part of Spain and Portugal, not in Gibraltar, but that the power went out here. It was seriously. I called it a wake-up call because one thing is that we lose the power and we get it back during the next 24 hours. But what if our telecommunication networks falls apart? Last week, the US published some research saying that they have been looking into Chinese solar panels. The Chinese are actually the market leader, sitting on, I think, close to 80 or 90% of the market for solar panels. And they have been looking into these solar panels and found out that they have some modems in it which was not on the specification. So a solar panel have a modem in it, wireless modem, so it can update software and send information back to those who own and run the solar parks. But a lot of these solar panels had an additional modem which was not on the specification and was configured so it could get around firewalls and stuff like that. A lot of people say that's America. They hate China. This is not true. This is American propaganda. But in Denmark, Green Power Denmark was a trade organization representing almost 1,600 companies in the renewable, in the green, in the power industry in Denmark, from fossil fuel power plants to renewable energy power plants, said we have actually had cases and found equipment in Danish energy equipment which we can't explain why it's there. They're looking into it. So basically we have in Denmark, quite far away from America, actually halfway between the US and China, we have had the same experience. The question is it the same here in Spain? If you look at Spain, basically 15% of electricity generation is coming from solar panels. That was in 2023 and expanded a lot since. So what's interesting is that is there someone which is capable to shut off the renewable energy industry in Spain? Big questions, I don't know. But I know one thing, we're all very dependent of two things. The one thing is energy and the other thing is telecommunication. When energy goes off, the power goes off, the light goes out, people can understand, but they can't imagine what it means for society if you lose the access to the internet. You cannot make a financial transaction. You cannot do a payment because the telecommunication networks is down. And how long time will it take to re-establish a telecommunication network? EU have done a lot to improve security. Just right now we're implementing the NIS2, but they had done a 5G toolbox, which basically says where they're looking at trusted vendors, critical infrastructure, 5G infrastructure, and all 27 European countries have basically agreed to implement the 5G toolbox. We have done a study, 10 countries have implemented it, 10 countries have partly implemented it, and 7 countries have not implemented it. That means that EU have agreed how to ensure to get trusted vendors into the network, how to get secure networks and doing all that, but in 17 countries out of 27 countries in the European Union don't take the rules which we have agreed across all 27 countries to implement and implemented them. Spain, in the Senate, in December, actually on Christmas Day, December, on the 24th of December 2024, they voted for the Spanish law, which is a fundament for the 5G toolbox. But here's the bad news. The 5G toolbox is not implemented in Spain. So the Spanish government agree to the 5G toolbox. They make a law so it can be implemented in Spain, and they haven't implemented it. I think that's a bummer. Across Europe, we can see different countries is handling this in different ways. If we look at the 5G equipment across Europe, we can see that actually numbers of countries have quite much Chinese equipment in the 5G networks. They are dependent of Chinese. In Germany, is 58% of all the 5G infrastructure, which is from China. On the top of that, all the communication solutions which the German railroads, Deutsche Bahn, is using, is coming from Huawei. And the new cloud which Deutsche Telekom is launching in Germany in these days is built and run by China, by Huawei. The good news when you use a Chinese cloud in Germany is if you go to China, you don't need to file for a visa because they already have your data. But I just want to say, we're all sitting here. Lots of you have during the last 10 minutes been looking at your phones. And basically in Spain, Vodafone, Telefonica is not using Chinese equipment, but Orange is using it, have just signed another contract with Huawei a few days ago. And Vodafone is 91% of all their 5G equipment in Spain is from Huawei. I have a map here of the area where we are, including the Parliament, and here there's all these signs. That's Huawei sites around you right now. So if you have a Vodafone logo on your phone, you're sending your traffic over a Chinese network. We have also been looking at how Europe, which countries in Europe have a serious view on Chinese equipment telecommunication networks, and what is their view on helping Ukraine. I'm Danish, and I'm very proud of being Danish. And I think there's two ways to stop the war in Ukraine. The one way is to negotiate, and the other way is to send them a hell lot of bullets. And since 2022, Europe haven't done anything on the negotiation side. That was when Macron had all the 11 meetings with Putin, including the one where they're sitting in each end of a long table. Europe has spent more money on Russian energy the last 3 years than on help in total to Ukraine. We have sent more money to Moscow than to Kiev. Little Denmark, where I come from, has spent 1.8 billion euros more in military aid to Ukraine than Spain, France and Italy combined. Okay? We are 5.7 million people. France has spent more money on Russian energy last year than they spent on military aid to Ukraine for the last 3 years. What I say is Macron, he's a very short man with short arms and deep pockets, saying all the things which sounds nice, but his capability to help Ukraine is a disgrace. I know there's a lot of Ukrainians here, and I know the Ukrainians cannot go out and criticize the European Union and what they're doing, but I can do it. So my voice, when I have the knowledge, is important to speak up and say that we Europeans have to pull our act together. The country who has spent most money on military aid the last 3 years to Ukraine is Germany, 12.7 billion euros, I think it is, and America is 67 billion euros. I met a senator in December in Washington when we had the event. He was from a state in the Middle West. He said, can you tell me how I tell my voters that we're going to help Ukraine if the European countries don't want to do it, don't want to pay, don't want to do an effort? That's a reality. What we actually can see is, as close our country is, except Hungary, to Moscow, as more aid they give compared to their GDP to Ukraine. As further away they are from Moscow, as less help they send to Ukraine. We also see in France, which is really, I must admit that Trump didn't treat Zelensky nice, and since that Zelensky have been traveling around Europe and all the politicians have been pecking him on the head, inviting him for lunches, and nothing had happened. But in France there's a satellite operator, and I spoke about it just after the war started at our event in Romania, called Neurotechnology. The CEO, she's called Eva Bernanke. They're providing with the TV signals for 15 million households in Russia. And despite the fact that the EU have made sanctions, they have not been living up to the sanctions at all. The French satellite regulator have been very passive in that way. I always says Telsat is Putin's best friend in Europe because they're helping him to distribute his propaganda. She also market themselves that they have this OneWeb, which they market as an alternative to Starlink, and say we can't trust America, we can't trust Elon Musk, we can't trust Starlink, and so you should do business instead with a company which have been helping spreading Russian propaganda to 15 million households during the last 3 years. I'm sorry, this woman, she's now leaving her job, but listen, her greed is disgusting. Her moral compass is non-existing. We see the Chinese is trying to do a lot of things, manipulating, telling stories about how fantastic they are. I can write books about it. We've been writing books about it. And they try to tell they do the most fantastic technology. The reality is what we see what they did. This is a case from Portugal and Italy. Huawei was traveling around to schools in Portugal and Italy, telling kids, learning them about cybersecurity and the internet. I'm sorry. It's like Putin telling people about democracy. You know, there's no free internet in China. It's all controlled by the government. The Chinese national law is very simple. If a Chinese company have access to information, if the government in China wants to get access to it, they have to share it. It's very simple. That's the national intelligence law from 2017 in China. So I think it's very important to look at all the risk we have. The risk of being dependent on Chinese technology. The risk that China can turn off our telecommunication networks. They can turn off our solar parks, our windmills, all the vital infrastructure which makes our society work. I think it's very important to understand. We Europeans need to pull our act together. We need to tell those European countries which are talking about supporting Ukraine, but not doing it, like France, they need to pull their act together. We need to stop that war. We need to stop the killing. And we need to expose the people like Eva Berneke from Eurotelsat, which is still helping Russia. I think it's important to create transparency. I look at my job as a way just to create transparency. That's the only thing. Collecting data, sharing it with people like a number of other experts here. I hope you will have a good event. Thank you.
Excellent, John. Very, very clear.